Hello and welcome to the Cameron and Tia Show. I am Tia and today we are talking about our 5 ways to improve your wedding invitation styling. So this entire month we're talking about details on the wedding day. And before we dive into the 5 tips, I want to touch on one thing. Our goal, Cameron and my goal, when we are styling wedding details, is that we want to get photos for our couples that showcase all of the intentional choices that they made for their details on their wedding day. So photos that they can look back on that are clean and classic, that in 5, 10, 20 years they can look back and say, oh my gosh, look at our shoes, or how cool is our wedding band. It's so fun to see all of those elements together. They also serve as a place to be able to introduce the wedding, to set the scene, and to make sense in an album, cohesively saying, set the scene, here's the venue, here's the date, here's the general look and feel of the day. Something that is not a main goal for us is to try to get our images published in a super awesome elite magazine or online publishing forum. That's not our goal. While that would be nice, absolutely, but that's not something that we're investing a ton of time or resources into. So I just want to touch on that. I am not an expert in styling, but this is how we get those classic images that our couples love and love to look back on. Tip number 1 is to prepare our couples. They need to know what to bring and how to prepare it. So we send them a detailed checklist that lists everything that they could possibly want in their detailed photos. So it'll include things like having all 3 of their rings, so like an engagement ring, a wedding band, and then the other partner's wedding band, ready to go. Not on someone's finger, not in the best man's pocket. It'll include all the pieces of their wedding invitation. It'll include their accessories, their shoes, their tie, their cufflinks, their bracelets, their hair pieces, all of the things. We give this to them in their wedding guide when they book with us. In addition, it pops up various places in our workflow, including a couple weeks before their wedding as they're preparing that. We ask them to put all of their details in a box or a bag so that we can arrive on the wedding day, greet them, check in, grab the details. They're not having to scramble around their bridal suite, trying to find their shoes, trying to find their hairpiece. It's all ready to go. We can just grab and go. So this detailed checklist, we want to share it with you guys. So we have a link in our bio. You can just go grab it for free. You literally just enter your email, you'll download it. That's something that you can share with your couples directly as an attachment, or pop it in a guide, or make it whatever formatting you'd like to have it in your workflow. Tip number 2 is to use risers, and those could be whatever, I'll go into it, to be able to elevate your flat lay. Your flat lay does not need to be flat. In fact, we think it actually looks better when it has some dimension to it. So we use risers. Typically we'll use little acrylic pieces. They're clear squares that we get from Amazon. That will be linked in our bio, and we actually have an entire video that's our entire styling kit, so you can see all the little elements that we bring along on a wedding day. But we'll use these risers to just prop up pieces of the invitation to be able to get some depth from whatever our background is. It allows us to get a little shadow, which looks natural and really makes it look a little bit more high end. But of course you can use lens caps, you can use extra boxes, whatever that is, but add that dimension, add that lift to elements. What we like to do typically is add a riser to the main invitation piece, and then everything else will softly fade away. We'll kind of get the main invitation piece mostly in focus, and then maybe things that are not quite as important to have crisp focus on, like the accommodations card that has like their hotel information, that'll be a little softer. It makes it look a little bit more high end, and again, adds that dimension. Tip number 3 is being conscious of spreading out color and heavier items. So things that really draw the eye are things that are darker colors or super bright colors, whereas the invitation suite might be neutral or typically white or cream. If I have a lot of green elements or a lot of pink elements, I want to spread those out. So typically I'll look for different corners, which is really appealing to the eye. Additionally, consider things that feel heavier. So often those are going to be color related. So things like darker shoes, like if I'm throwing the groom's shoes in there, that might be a darker brown, a camel, a black, something like that. I want to spread those pieces out again. And again, I'm typically looking at corners. That plays really nicely. Tip number 4 is related. Be conscious of negative space. Typically when I'm doing invitation suites, there are a lot of different layouts that you could do. Sometimes they'll be at like 90-degree angles or parallel to each other. Sometimes they'll be more mishmashed at like 45-degree angles. Regardless, I'm going to really want to be conscious of negative space. Typically, to my eye, I can't see that right away. I can get stuff laid out and I can be like, ooh, that feels good. I've spread out my colors. I've spread out my heavier pieces. But then I need to bring my camera out, and sometimes I'll even bring my phone out, take a quick shot of it, because that will really illuminate oh my gosh, I have this huge negative space patch in this top right corner. I want to fill that out, or maybe I just want to spread out the invitation suite. In addition, if I have things at parallel or at 90-degree angles, I'm going to take a quick shot and I'm going to say, oh shoot, this negative space is not quite parallel. I need to be really cognizant of that because that's going to look really off in a final photo. I need to make the spacing in between each piece of the suite the same exact width or the same exact height. So be really conscious of negative space. And my final tip is to use natural elements. For this really elevates our detail shots, and typically it's going to be florals or greenery. So what's awesome about using natural elements is it really softens the design. I think it also adds like a flourish and like makes it a little bit more high end, like, ooh, these flowers, wow, I cannot believe it. Plus, flowers and greenery typically have a lot of depth and layers to them, which is going to look really great in any sort of detail or kind of like macro shot of like the rings or of the earrings dangling on them. So how you can obtain florals is one of two ways. Either you or your couple reaches out to the florist in advance, and typically if your couple reaches out, they'll actually have a line item in their invoice that says like detail florals or extra florals for details. Typically it's really affordable, so that could be something that your clients could explore. If you have a great relationship with the florist, or if you want to cultivate a relationship, reach out in advance, ask them, hey, if you have any extra buds, could we grab those from you? Typically we've had really great luck with florists being awesome about that. In addition, if that doesn't work out anytime in advance, on the day of, you're typically going to be setting up while the florist is setting up. So you can go over and they might have extra buds that they haven't used in like the ceremony backdrop or like the reception install, anything like that that they might be willing to give to you. I love to be prepared in advance if at all possible, but what's really great about this also is that these natural elements of florals and greenery will then tie into the entire rest of the day so that your detail photos look really cohesive with the ceremony details, with the bride's bouquet, everything like that. So I think it helps soften, it helps add a flourish, and it really gives a cohesive picture of the entire day. Next week we have a video coming at you, which is one of our DIY hacks for backgrounds for your detail photos. It's a really easy thing if you're in a pinch, and then this entire month we have detailed videos. So let us know if you have any questions, drop a comment below. We always love to chat in the comment section, and then otherwise, until next time, bye!